Well, shooters and reloaders out there, Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from Hot Lead Zone, and we all know what a great company Hornady is. Make great reloading equipment, they make great ammo, great brass for us to use. But there is a problem with Hornady brass, but it's not with Hornady rifle brass. Now you know that I like to shoot Hornady loaded ammo because I get the Hornady brass, and that's great for reloading. Well, here's why we like it so much. Among all the reasons that we like Hornady brass, one is that the Hornady brass is right at the trim to length. Notice it says 1.750, and if you look at the trim to length right there in the center of the screen, 1.750. It's perfect. Once fired Hornady brass is right at trim to length, or perhaps just a hair over that when we get fired. So did I mention that I really like Hornady rifle brass? And for good reason, great brass. But that just makes it more puzzling and inexplicable because of Hornady's premium line of revolver ammo. This is great ammo with one exception. It's not good for reloaders. And the reason why is because the brass is short. Now take for example the 44 Remington Magnum, one of our favorite, all-time favorite big game and big bore cartridges. The trim to length, as you see right there, is 1.275 and 1.285, which is 0.01 bigger or longer, is the maximum overall length. And our brass is right between those two numbers as a rule. Doesn't lengthen, so we don't need to trim our brass. But what we don't appreciate is the fact that Hornady brass starts off at 1.254. So this brass is actually 0.021 inch shorter than minimum trim to length. And that is not appreciated because that's loss of powder space. Premium ammo should not be shorter than trim to length. In fact, most of the other manufacturers stay above trim to length but shorter than the overall maximum length, so that gives us reloaders the best of all worlds. Look at this old 44 Remington Magnum factory round from way back when by Remington. It's right at maximum overall length, and it won't lengthen from that, so we still won't wind up having to trim this, but we got maximum powder space there. Well, let's move on to the 45 Colt. 45 Colt has as many fans as the 44 Magnum, and it is a favored cartridge for reloaders. Now it turns out that the 45 Colt actually has the same length as the 44 Magnum. 1.285 is the maximum, as you see there, same as the 44 Magnum. And the trim to length is the same as 1.275, same as the 44 Magnum. Nice. But the characteristics of premium Hornady 45 Colt brass is enough to make reloaders weep. Look what I'm doing here. I'm measuring from the part of the rim closest to us to the case mouth on a loaded round, and you get 1.233. Now that's a lot shorter than the trim to length of 1.275. That is a whole 0.042 shorter than the trim to length. That's short brass. A lot of powder space being lost. In fact, if you had half Hornady brass at that length and then half of brass from other manufacturers, and suppose you get to a situation where you have maximum length of 1.285, you got to trim them all back to the shortest cartridge cases you have, which is your half Hornadys. You're going to be trimming 0.052 off of those maximum lengths. 0.052 is that much. You're going to be trimming that much brass off of half your cases. Do you think that would be a pain in the neck? Now, of course, we don't need to trim our straight wall pistol brass anyway, but when I look at Hornady 45 Colt brass, I think I'm looking at another caliber because I can actually see that it's so much shorter than what the 45 Colt should be. In fact, when I run into Hornady brass, I've got an urge to throw it out because it's so short and it's premium brass. It's really a shame. Okay, now moving on to perhaps the most versatile caliber of all, the 357 Magnum. And Hornady, of course, loads some great ammo in 357 Magnum. But again, the brass disappoints reloaders. The 357 Magnum, the maximum overall length is 1.290, happens to be the same maximum overall length as the 41 Magnum. So you trim it back 0.01 and you get the trim to length of 1.280. Well, Hornady brass, premium Hornady 357 Magnum brass starts off at 1.250. That is 0.03 shorter than trim to length. Again, a real travesty. No reason to have brass that short. Shorter than trim to length. 0.030 inch less powder space. Less room in the boiler. Give you an idea, Remington Golden Saber 357 Magnum ammo has brass that is 1.285, which is right between trim to length and maximum overall length. Beautiful. Golden Saber by Remington. If you don't like that, here is 158 grain Remington 357 Magnum ammo, and it has brass that is 1.280, which is right at trim to length. Also beautiful. And here's some 125 grain 357 Magnum ammo, factory loaded, with brass that is 1.285. Also right in between trim to length and maximum overall length. Just fine. Now this, of course, also applies to raw brass that we buy for reloading, brand new brass. Not reloaded ammo, but brass. So look at this, Starline 41 Magnum brass, 1.280, which happens to be 0.01 shorter than maximum overall length, which is right on bullseye, the trim to length. You don't think that we like to use Starline brass because it's great brass and it's right at the trim to length? That's how brass should be, not short. So when it comes to Hornady rifle brass, I can't get enough of it. In fact, I'm buying some 25-06 Hornady loaded ammo as we speak. However, when it comes to premium pistol ammo, I'm just going to get the minimum of that because just to have some on hand for the good factory ammo that it is. But the brass for reloading is almost worthless. As a reloader, it discourages me from buying too much of this ammo.